everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the DRF Thursday race of the day. Race 9 at Saratoga is the Curlin Stakes for the 3-year-olds, going the 1 mile and an eighth distance on the main track. And Mike, the Jim Dandy is the race that's going to produce the highest profile contenders for the Travers later next month. But the Curlin typically produces some Travers starters every year. And as we take a look at the field for this year's Curlin, there is one horse here, the number 3 Strategic Focus, that has at least run a speed figure that puts him within range of some of the top 3-year-olds.
Yeah, he's got a chance to be really good, this horse. I like this race, David. You know, the 3-year-old division, it's pretty top heavy right now. There are some really good ones, but there are some interesting horses in this field that could maybe make a little bit of noise in some nice races down the line.
This Curlin Stakes, unlike the Jim Dandy, is a restricted stakes race. It's open to 3-year-olds, which have not won a graded stakes at a mile or more so far this year. So that's why a horse like the number 1, Chancellor McPatrick, can qualify. He's a graded stakes winner from a 2-year-old season, but has not yet visited the winner's circle so far in 2025. With this being the race of the day, do you know you can get free past performances for this race and every race of the day? Just go to that race of the day page at DRF.com when you're logged in, and you can access free PPs for every single race of the day. Let's check out the Timeform US pace projector for this Curlin Stakes, Mike. And there's not a ton of speed signed on here, so I will imagine that the number 6 Crudeau will be quick enough to make the front if they want to get there. But there are some other horses that have tactical speed, like the favorite Strategic Focus and even the number 7 So Sandy.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen, Crudeau probably comes out of there running and tries to make the lead this time, but the 7's got some speed. Strategic Focus is not going to be compromised no matter, what the pace is like in this race. But if it's slow, I expect to see him right up close. To me, the most interesting horse as far as the pace goes is the 2 Fountain Lake. They've been pretty conservative with him in recent starts, but I feel like he's got enough speed to be forwardly placed in here if that's what Saez wants to do.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about him and his running style in just a little bit, but let's start our conversation of the contenders with the horse drawn on the rail, the number 1, Chancellor McPatrick. He is the other Chad Brown horse in this race, though he is a grade 1 winner twice over from his 2-year-old season, winning last year's Hopeful at this track and the Champagne last fall at Aqueduct. Things have just not gone his way so far during the 3-year-old season, Mike, and it seems like the connections are kind of unsure what to really do with him, because he was disappointing when they went this distance in the Bluegrass 2 back. They thought about turning him back in the Woody Stevens last time, tried that out, got pace to close into, but it seemed like his late kick was still absent in that race. And now they're going to stretch back out to the 9 furlong, something that they had previously abandoned in a softer race. This restricted stakes race just remains to be seen if he can get back on track to that 2-year-old form.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a really tough call in this race. He's obviously a talented horse, or at least he was. The clock is starting to tick on this horse now that was a 3-year-old, David, as you've already sort of pointed out. It seems like the connections don't really know what he's going to be best at. I feel like the consensus for the most part when they turned him back in the Woody Stevens last time was that's the right thing to do. He's going to be better around 1 turn with some pace to run at, and it just didn't happen for him. Now we're in a position where his last 2 races are both pretty bad, and they're going to try to stretch him out again here. He has not proven that he wants to go this far.
The number 2, Fountain Lake, will be making his stakes debut in this race. But, Mike, this horse has been improving right on through his last several starts. He broke his maiden 3 back in the slop at Churchill Downs. That was the first race on Kentucky Derby Day. And they went to the front end that day, and he was really game to turn back challenges and win that race. The runner-up, Chillax, he hasn't gotten the job done yet, but, I mean, he's a horse that has some talent. And since then, Mike, they've tried first-level allowance races twice. He's hit the board in both of them, actually beaten by rivals. He'll meet again here in Hypnus and So Sandy, but I was kind of surprised to see the change up in tactics given what worked 3 back when he broke his maiden.
Yeah, I was too. And I say that, and I do think it's only fair to recognize that he ran really well in those last 2 starts, even though he didn't win either time. Particularly, I thought 2 starts back. I thought he ran really well that day where Leparoux just left him way too much to do. And the last one, I just kind of felt like those lead horses weren't coming back for him. But he tried really hard in there too. I don't know, David. I feel like you can see a different trip coming for this horse in here. Like you, I just feel like he's getting better every time these connections send him out there to run. And I feel like this is the right time for them to try a race like this. He's going to be a price in here, and I think he can go with these horses.
Yeah, he just seems like a horse that's stepping up, and I agree that race two back really visually impressive. He was so far back at the top of the stretch, and the fact that he got up for second, only beaten a length, was a really nice effort. We'll see if he can step forward in his stakes debut. The number three, Strategic Focus, he's going to be the favorite in this race. I mean, he's just earned a couple of speed figures that put him a cut above his competitors in here, Mike. I mean, that 91 buyer he earned on debut seemed a little fast at the time, but it was validated by rubbacks as the second and third place finishers came back to photo, both earning 97 buyers next time out. And then Strategic Focus himself stepped up in this race that we'll take a look at last time at Saratoga. Now, unfortunately, his unbeaten record was taken away from him by the stewards as he was demoted to second in this race for interfering, or so they say, with a stablemate. As you're going to see, he's going to lug in under right-handed whip a little bit there, and then again more dramatically right here. And he does kind of cut off Malarchuk. I think it's debatable whether or not that horse is actually going to win the race. But I mean, Mike, these two are a mile clear of the rest of the field, and this came back a really fast race. His 102 buyer, if he repeats it, he's going to be awfully tough to beat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a very questionable disqualification. And I feel like even off his debut, which was a good performance, even that, like the one turn mile, even just, at least in my opinion, it seemed like a little short for this horse. I feel like he was going to get better when they stretched him out, and he did. You mentioned the 102 buyer. Malarchuk did come back and win his next start. He earned a 102 when he won his next race. So that sort of validates this performance. I mean, listen, he's going to have to clean some stuff up. You saw him lug in there through the stretch. You don't want to do that when you're stepping up to face even better horses. But if this horse, has it all figured out now and runs that well again, he's probably going to win this race.
The thing that's really struck me about his first two races is the turn of foot that he appears to possess, because he travels well, but once they've asked him to go, I mean, he really quickens the turnover of his stride to go after the horses in front of him. That's an impressive attribute for a horse that's racing on the dirt. The number four, Hypnus, got the job done last time over Fountain Lake. We were referencing that June 1st allowance race earlier, commenting on the impressive performance of Fountain Lake in defeat, but Mike Hypnus ran pretty well in that spot. I thought he got a great trip to win the race, just sitting in behind the leaders on the rail as Brian Hernandez loves to do, and then tipping out at the top of the stretch. Mike, do you still have some concerns about whether or not this horse really wants to go 9 furlongs?
Yeah, I have a couple of concerns about him. I do have concerns about more distance with him. I also just have concerns that he just might not be that good, David, at least in my opinion. I mean, save the Rebel, and the Rebel was a fast-paced race. It was just his second career start. He did have some traffic trouble in that race. But that race aside, to me, this horse has gotten nothing but good trips in his races. He was not up for graded stakes quality horses earlier this year. His two races since then are fine, but he had no excuse. Two starts back with a really fast pace to come after, and he wasn't good enough. He got a perfect trip last time, and I'm not sure that he even ran the best race that day. This horse is fine. I'm just not sure how good he actually is.
The number five, Just a Fair Shake, kind of feels like the outsider in this field. He's just got a lot to prove, not just from a form standpoint, but also in terms of his speed figures. He hasn't run quite fast enough to beat a field like this. And Mike, the Pegasus last time out, he was a little closer to the pace than he usually is, and I think that took away from his late finish. But still, it's not like this race projects to feature a fast pace that's going to come back to him.
Yeah, I don't like this spot for this horse if they're going to ship him into running. He has cross-entered into an allowance race at Parks on Thursday. That's a way better spot for this horse. I don't think he can beat this field.
Well, he was competing in the Sir Barton 2-back, the race that was won by the number 6, Crudeau, who's up next. And we'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Mike, I know we were on track at Pimlico to handicap this race, and we had a bit of a disagreement about this horse. You were right on this day. Crudeau was just way better than the field that he was beating in the Sir Barton. I know that you were a fan of him this Preakness weekend. They tried an awfully tough spot off this victory, stepping him up into the Belmont Stakes. And they were not so aggressive coming out of the starting gate. The Baffert horse in there went to the front end. Rodriguez and Crudeau was just kind of under a long hold, raiding outside of him. And just don't think that's his best running style. But also, that might have just been too tough a spot.
Yeah, it felt that way going in anyway. Like when they were talking about running him in the Belmont Stakes, it just, for whatever reason, I think this horse does have some ability. That just seemed like a pretty big mistake to me to run him in that grade one. It was just a super strong field, going 1.25 miles, and then to do it in a race where you knew the trip that he got was coming for him, where he wasn't fast enough to make the lead, and they were going to be forced to chase horses that, quite frankly, are just better than he is. There's no tougher trip in racing than that one. So I'm trying not to be too hard on him for the Belmont Stakes. The jury's still out, exactly how good this horse is, but I think he does have some potential. He does have some talent. I think he'll run better in this race.
Mike, I think one of the toughest reads in the race is the number 7, So Sandy, because if you believe his last race, he's a contender in here. You just kind of have to wonder where it came from, because he wasn't much as a 2-year-old. I mean, he was just not competitive in some maiden races, and clearly he's a horse that wants every bit of added distance he can get, because he's a grinder, and he seems like a horse that might even want to go farther than 1.125 miles down the line. But I mean, he had to work pretty hard to get away from that field off the layup at Horseshoe Indy 2-back. The 78 buyer doesn't exactly suggest he's supposed to win an allowance race next time at Churchill, but he did so, and did so pretty convincingly, beating Fountain Lake, we already talked about. Now, I agree, Mike, you wanted to be up close to the pace in that race because they weren't going so quickly up front, and So Sandy was, but he still finished off that race nicely, and if the pace moderates again here, potentially he gets another good trip.
Yeah, exactly. If nothing else, it's just a race last time that if he can find a way to repeat it, it makes him competitive in here at the very least. I like you, I just struggled to try to find a reason that he ran as well as he did last time. There are like no changes you can really point to. For whatever reason, he just upped his game last time and ran really well. I'll make him do it again. I don't want to bet this horse in this race, but he did run well last time.
Mike, we started off our conversation of this race with Chancellor McPatrick, a horse that had success at Saratoga last summer, and it's kind of searching for answers how to get back to that form right now or build upon it. I feel like the number 8, Uncaged, is in a similar boat, where he looked like the sky was the limit after he won his debut in a tough maiden race at Saratoga last summer, and they're just trying to figure out what works for him now, because he won in a 1-turn allowance race 3-back. They've tried to go longer since then. It felt like added distance was supposed to work for this horse, but he's kind of lacked finish in both of those races. Now, obviously, he had no chance in the Belmont Stakes last time, but they're going to try the 9 furlongs again, and we'll see if he gets any more pace to close into.
Yeah, I don't know if this is enough class relief for him, to be honest with you, David. I mean, I remember liking his allowance win, the 1-turn mile back in April. I just thought he did some good things in there, and maybe pointed him out as a horse who could go forward. He has looked totally overmatched by graded stakes horses in his last 2 starts.
And I think the connections are kind of unsure what to do, because he's cross-entered in the Amsterdam on Friday going 6.5 furlongs. So we'll see which race he ultimately runs in. Let's go to our picks for this Curlin. And Mike, it's going to be awfully tough to get around the number 3 Strategic Focus. And I'm personally not that interested in trying to beat this horse. I've been impressed with his last couple of races, especially that most recent performance going this distance. And if he runs as well, he's just going to be really tough to beat.
I agree. I have him second in here, and I do expect him to run well in here. I expect him to be tough to beat. I do want to bet a little money on the 2 Fountain Lake, because I do think he's better than he looks on paper, and he's just going to be such a fair price in this race, David, that I have to take a little bit of a shot with him. I'm gonna bet him to win it here. I'm gonna play a lot of 3s and 2s.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for your top pick, Mike. I'll definitely be playing that 3-2 exacta in the Curlin, which is the DRF Thursday race of the day, race 9 at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.